done for me lately? It's Coons. What have y'all done for us lately? And if there's no answer, you know, the only thing we owe them.
Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome. It's Tuesday night, and every Tuesday night we have Sister Azima on, and you know we have been going through a series of conversations with Sister Azima in reference to knowing who we are. It was know who you are, know thyself, right? So Sister Azima had came up with. I was asking her a series of questions, and she was really giving me some insight, some historical insight on some things. And I'm always intrigued by Sister Azima's knowledge, information, and wisdom. So she had decided to come up with this beautiful title of this show that we're doing tonight. And it'll be a series of shows. We don't know how many it's going to leave for us to get the information from our guest and our guest to share this beautiful information with us. She's very excited. She's a teacher, educator, and this type of information sometimes you have to purchase it. But she's willing to share some information with us. Sister Azima, talk about this title, People of the Land, and what secrets they hold.
Well, right now, good evening, everybody. I want you to meet a close personal friend of mine, Chief Mimi Olam, and she's going to talk about the things that are important. Brother Quentin and I were talking, and he had asked me, do you know anything about socialism and fascism? I said, you can't talk about that till you teach the people a foundation, because democracy is just one step away from that. And in order for you to hear it clearly, you need to have, and I'm going to say it, a greater understanding. Because when you understand something, you are standing under the rules and laws of those that are in control. And you're going to always understand them because they're telling you that every single day, every single minute, every single second. And you don't believe that, but it's everywhere. It's on the radio, it's in the air, it's on your podcasting, it's in your telephone, it's on your computer, it's there. And it is the structure and the foundation that you deal with, so much so that you can't understand why you're always a victim and you have a victim mentality. Why white people are this, why these people over here are that. And that's because, one, you don't know who you are. Two, you don't know your land. And three, and the land means more than a physical place. And three, you don't know your divinity. So let me offer this up to you. I'm going to read something out of the Medu Neter. The Medu Neter means the divine words. It's not one book, it's 8 volumes. It was written by Ron U. Nefer. And at the time that I met him back in 92, he autographed my book. But what I wanted to read from there is what everyone talks about: Trinity, Jesus, all of that. But there's something called the Great Divine Trinity. The people that talk about it most are the Jewish people. Okay, and I don't mean the Hebrew Israelites, but the Jewish people that we recognize as Jewish people. There are 3 great divine trinity. A trinity means 3. The first one is called Ba, B-A. And the purpose of the Ba, it represents the soul of the world, the galaxy, the planets, and everything that we see. It dwells as an integral part of the one being known as the divine. Two, the Kun, Khu, Kun. It means the divine will. It's universal. It initiates the manifestation of each and everything, each and every event, each and every moment in your life. It appoints to each thing in its place and in its time. The third is called the Shechem. And the Shechem is the universal power which carries to physical manifestation the dictates of the universal divine will. You have a will, and it vibrates to the frequency of 50 units of power, known as the Benin Elohim, or the 50 gates of the Benai. This is in canon Kabbalistic law. And the reason I say this is important, because this is what gives you the foundations or the structures of society. Can you put that up for me, please? There are 7 structures that make up a society. The first one is divine or natural laws. And this is very important to know this. When something is divine or natural, it can never be superseded. Never. It is the law that is made from the most simplest form of inception of any ideas, but it has such a complex value that you can't change it. And you've heard people say, out of the sublime comes the great. So what they're telling you is that the simplest thing is so complex that you don't always understand it until you are in it. So divine law and natural law are hand in hand, and nothing can supersede it. The second is the family. It is the basic construct, and the purpose of it is to create and maintain life, to provide emotional support, and to transmit cultural values. Now, culture means what it says, to cultivate, to grow, to establish, but it has to be based on certain principles. Okay? This is how you make a society. No society in the world exists without these 7 principles. The third principle is agriculture. Before there was industry, there was agriculture. It's the cultivation of edible sources of food. The process is necessary for its usage, storage, trade, and seed banking. These become known as heirloom seeds. What we're eating now is genetically modified food, and that directly impacts your health. Even if we are just herbivores or vegans, everything has been genetically modified. They didn't have to go in there and pull it apart in a scientific lab, because they can spray what they want out of the air, and that's called chemtrails. And it comes down into your soil, your water, and it messes up the seeds. And then you have Roundup, which is a herbicide. And you've seen the problem with Roundup. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. The next part of that is education. The purpose of education is the process of receiving and giving systematic instruction to the populace, enhancing their knowledge, skills, critical thinking, and participation in society. If they can't participate, you don't have a social structure. You have no social structure, there is no governance or ruling. Then you're just a loner, a hermit, and you cannot do everything for self. Number 5 is economics or business. This is the creation of mature technology, advanced economy with a diverse industrial and service sector that supports high GDP, and that's your gross domestic product. Okay. and per capita income. So that means everybody has a way to earn a living in order to live in this society, in the society. If it's a rural thing, then the per capita income or the GDP would be the collective assets that they bring together, the land, the resources of the land, and whatever else they need. If that means taking care of horses, cattle, whatever, all of that is part of their GDP. It is also having the ability to transition as needed for future growth and development. And so you should be able to transition out of an agriculture to a to an industrial or manufacturing, or from there into a digital or technical society. But the people are the ones that are making the transition, because without people, you do not have a structure. You may have robots, but you don't have a structure because the robots are not sentient. Okay. And their intelligence is not artificial or intelligent. Someone has to program it, and somebody has to give it the ability to think. Okay. And you're already experiencing that without having a robot sitting next to you. You look at it in your cell phone, you look at it in your computers, you look at it in any type of automation that they're doing. All of that is technology to remove you. What is it removing you from? The Trinity we just talked about. The Ba, which is the soul of the world, the galaxies. Okay. The Kun, which is your divine will. And the Shechem, which is the ability to use the power of that divine will. The last, you have two more things to talk about. Health. What is health? Health addresses the overall well being of a population, in encompassing physical, mental, um, social, environmental, economic. Let me go back. It addresses the overall well being of a population, encompassing physical, mental, social, environmental, and economic health through establishing systems with policies that affect factors along with behavior. Thus, arts and entertainment become institutions for the extension of the population's quality of life. And I want to repeat this to you again. The health of a society addresses the overall well being of a population, encompassing physical, mental, social, environmental, and economic health through establishing systems and policies that affect factors along with behavior. Thus, arts and entertainment become institutions for the extension of the population's quality of life. And we're going to really hone in on that with Chief Mimi, because this is where we get the things called regulations, policies, and rules. Okay. And they're going to tell you it's law, but it is not. Okay. The last part of the social structure, the structure of making a society, is governance. And in that governance, we have the responsibility for creating and enforcing laws. Once again, we're going to talk about that. Maintaining order establishes shaping factors for the dissemination of public information. This becomes your media. America doesn't have what we call government media, but they directly influence how media thinks, speaks, and shares certain types of information. There was a time you could be an investigative reporter, you can investigate. If you start investigating now, they can shame you out of existence, or physical harm can come to you or your family. So the system, the governing system now has in place a way to control what the media is doing. Now we've gone from Trump being the boogeyman to him being elected. And now they're telling you he's taken away everything. And I'm going to speak on that briefly in this respect personally. I am on Social Security. Trump has not touched my Social Security. What he did do through the Department of Governmental Efficiency, he showed me how, and it really irritates me. He showed me how foreigners from other countries can come in and receive Social Security benefits before they've even started working. The problem with that, so that you can understand, is that the 45 years that I worked, I put in half of that money into the Social Security, and it was matched by my employer. So now that money is in a trust, and when that trust earns interest, it is supposed to come to me and all the other people who have put their money in. However, the current government, excluding Trump, the current government that had been in power decided, well, we got $2 trillion coming off of that trust fund. We can use that to help ourselves with the United States Agency on International Diplomacy or Development. You didn't ask me if you could use my money. That's my interest money. And so Trump is trying to narrow it down as to where the money has gone. And so he's not out there shutting it down. Under the previous administrations, including Clinton and including Obama and Biden, there used to be a Social Security office 3 blocks from me. It was shut down long before Trump became president and had been shut down 5 years, and they turned it into a daycare. And I would have to travel either downtown, which was 45 minutes away, or way out in the county, which was another 35 minutes, to find a Social Security office in which I can go in and take care of my business. Working online, I tried that. I set everything up. And what I found out was that I received a letter from the Social Security Administration saying that my personal information had been hacked, along with my medical files and all the records in which I had worked with the government. And all they could do was offer me LifeLock. And I thought, where's my money? I didn't get a COLA raise, a cost of living adjustment, for 8 years. None of us did. So when you hear politicians say, we're going to go out of our way, we gave you a COLA, that is a lot of baloney, malarkey. Because how can you increase anything when the money is taken out of your personal check, matched by your employer, and put into a trust fund? And that trust fund is earning money the whole time until you retire. And then when you hit retirement, they're telling you, hey, ain't gonna be no money there. So how did they get around that? They had a handshake agreement with other countries, particularly China. And they sent 90,000, hear me, 90,000 American businesses were forced out or forced to work with China. And that comes under the rules of the law and what governs you. Now, scroll that up, please. And you will see we're going to talk about something called the 7 hermetic principles. I think I gave this to you all the last time. So in the 7 hermetic principles, and it's important to understand that if you want to know where to find the structures of society, there's an unknown author. It has been around since time immemorial. And these are guidelines that are used by the Red Cross, the Red Crescent, the Catholic Church, other religious agencies, organizations, and temples. Okay, so it has been here so long that they can never say who did the actual writing or development of this. under the 7 hermetic principles. These are the principles of thought that came right out of Kemet, Kush. Okay. The purpose of these principles is to tell you how you have to put these principles into effect based on the natural laws and the divine laws or the universal laws in order to manifest. That's how we manifested this planet, this galaxy, the laws that we see now. When the God force became aware and conscious, it bifurcated, it tore itself apart so that each and every aspect of itself can replicate a light, an angle, an angel, an energy. And those things must come back together to function in the collective. The collective is the harmony between the masculine energy and the feminine energy. And when you bring it together, manifestation occurs. You cannot do it any other way. You can't make robots to do it. And you cannot make people who do not have the ability to understand, that don't have an inner light in order to do this. Because it is a process that requires you to think. And it takes us back to the basic laws. And before you can talk about fascism or socialism, you need to know what the laws were everywhere and then the laws in this land. So we're just going to read through them. The principle of mentalism, the principle of correspondence. Well, we know mentalism means if you think it, it becomes. The principle of correspondence is as within, so without. But what it really means is that what affects you directly affects everything around you. So if you're living in a state of mental chaos, emotional chaos, physical chaos, everything around you is going to be chaotic. The principle of vibration, everything's an energy. Everything moves. Everything moves. Okay. Nothing is in a state of rest. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. That energy is the frequency that gives you the force field in order for you to narrow yourself down to 3-dimensional level in order to pick up a pencil, a pen, a book, a baby, whatever. You have come from higher dimensional planes to a lower dimensional plane in order to pick something up. That means you're using your force to change the outcome of certain things. The principle of polarity. Everything has its opposite, identical in nature. The continuum that ripples in a waveform to the midpoint or harmony. Here's where we learn that we're not looking for equality. We're looking for harmony and balance. What I may need, Quentin may not need. What Quentin needs, Chief Mimi may not need. But if you want to make it equal, we will all have to pick one of us and be equal to that person. So if I have the money to buy a new house and the other two do not, is it fair for them to get the new house if they don't have the means to take care of it? They're teaching you. They are bending. They're taking this energy, which is light, and they're bending it to meet their needs. Then we have the principle of rhythm, which is number 5. That all things rise and fall. Everything has a cycle. And you know that. That cycle is a waveform. And if you don't believe me, we have spring, we have summer, we have fall, and we have winter. Those are cycles. It creates a waveform. The stock is up, the stock is down. Once you learn all of this information and intuit it within, you will learn to do what I do. In the summer, I buy all the gifts for people for the holidays. In the winter, I buy all the summer clothes because that's when they're selling. And you're going like, why are they selling it? Because they're getting rid of the previous stock that they had. And you will learn how to do these things because now you are working in harmony with the divine laws, the universal laws, the natural laws. The next one is the principle of cause and effect. We know that every action has a reaction. You know that. Have an accident and see what happens. What that does is that it creates a repetitive ability. The actions cause reactions that are repetitive. Repetition becomes ritualistic. Ritualistic becomes constitutional. So when there's repetitive action, it allows you to have the ability to adjust the outcome, but you can only adjust the outcome in the sequential steps necessary to do it. So you name the outcome of your action and you get the results because you've named it and you're working towards it. And then the principle of manifestation. It is a process of bringing desired realities into existence. And you can only do that when you have clear intentions. You have to write that down. Your desire, positive affirmations. It can't be, well, today I'm not feeling it, God. I'm leaving it up to you. The God force is within you. So if you take a holiday, if you're telling God you're taking a holiday, you're literally taking a holiday from yourself, the God force within you. Nothing gets done. Okay, so you have to have clear intentions, positive affirmations. You have to have belief backed by evidence. And there's plenty of evidence out here to show you that you can manifest things. And you do it every day. When you don't have the money to get on the bus or the train or whatever, somehow you talk it into existence and you go find that money. It might have been in a pocket where you were getting ready to wash some clothes, or it might have fallen down behind the bed or in the couch, but you manifested that money because your mind took you to where it was. Okay. Visualization. You have to tell yourself, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm after. And these things that we're saying here is very important based on the laws, the natural laws. Nothing can supersede them. No natural law. But what we're looking at are policies. That's why you have police. They are policy enforcers. And corporations basically run what's going on. So from there, you engage both masculine and feminine parts of the brain. And then you must take relevant, inspired action. If you want that car, you're going to do the things you need to do. If you want to take somebody out to dinner, you're going to save that money to do what you have to do. You are taking those actions. You have been taught, conditioned, and trained to believe that you have no control. We're trying to show you that all of this was written. This here was written. There is no author for that. This is in the Kabbalah. And it predates anything. They give us a date of 1908 as the first printing of it, but they say the author is unknown because the Kabbalah is from the Sanskrit scrolls and all of these other places where these ancient texts exist. Will you scroll up to the last one? Now, all of these are 7. 3 sevens make 21. We're working on the principles of 3, 6, 9. 3 times 7 gives you 21. 2 and 1 makes 3. Okay? So a circle is 360 degrees. It can be divided by 9, it can be divided by 6, and it can be divided by 3. This is waveform, and this is what it's teaching you. Once you have great knowledge of this and apply these principles, things around you will shift and change, and you will no longer be a part of the chaos that's going on, the controlled, purposely created chaos. Chaos just means disorganization. And she's going to show you how, Chief Mimi, it's built into the system to create that. And what you do is that you have days where you just go home and you just want to cuss the world out because you're tired of working within this little tiny box that you know is not correct. Okay, the last one are the 7 ideals and moral principles of Maat. Okay, Maat. What does Maat mean? It means just this. harmony, bringing things to a place of peace. So the first thing you work with is truth. Truth is honesty, sincerity, authenticity in words and actions. And we have folks that'll smile in your face and talk terrible about you. And we have songs about this, smiling in your face, backstabber, and we think it's okay. Have you ever thought that every major religious holiday, Christian holiday, horror movies are on TV about murder, mayhem, and everything? Did you ever think, why are they doing this? It's because they have to keep your psychological energy tuned so that your pineal gland will vibrate to a state of disharmony. Therefore, when you're in disharmony, you're in fear, anxiety. When you have all of that you're dealing with, you cannot function on doing anything. Okay. So the problem with that is that we are right here. We have truth, we have justice, we have harmony, and then we have balance. And in that, the balance is maintaining equilibrium and sustaining yourself in all aspects of life. In all aspects of life. So these are the key things, and and Sister Chief Mimi is going to talk about this. You have to have order and reciprocity along with prosperity. Okay. And that is acting in a manner that is appropriate, respectful, and in accordance with social norms. Now, we're the ones that gave the world civilization and society and structure, but somehow we fail to come back and give it to ourselves.
Mm.
And we divide ourselves based on too many little bitty things. Chief Mimi and my family took it upon ourselves to do 23andMe, to do the whole DNA. What it does, it gives you a focal point to go to. And in that focal point, you have the ability to better understand what you are about. That's why we're talking about people of the land and what secrets do they hold. If you do not know who you are, you cannot be of the land. And the land isn't just this planet, it's everything that we see, even in what you consider space. If you have any questions, now's the time to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to turn you over to Chief Mimi because she's got the documents that, whoo, it will awaken you, and that's the key thing we have to do. It's very important that we become aware, knowledgeable. We are changing. We are literally ascending. You do not have to be stuck in third dimension, fourth dimension, fifth dimension, sixth dimension, or seventh. You can move. And even when the body is passing, as we say death. Is it really death? May I say this quickly, Chief Mimi? There was a little TikTok thing I thought was really funny. There were two babies in a womb, and the woman is getting ready to give birth. She's having twins. The two babies are talking to each other. Baby A says, "Oh my God, I'm going to die. They're going to push me out." Baby B is like, "Man, this is great. I can't wait. We're going to get out there. We're going to see a whole new world. We're going to do that." And baby A is going, "No, no, no. This is not right. I'm safe in here. I know what this is about. This is familiar territory. You're going to push me out. What's going to happen to me?" Okay? Death is the same thing. Those babies died in the womb because there was no more space for them, and they had to come out. One baby came out in fear, and the other baby came out ready. And in doing that, it was based upon how the mother interacted with the two babies in her body. Doesn't matter if you have twins. It doesn't matter how many children you have. Each child represents a cycle in your life in which aspects of you change, and you will see it in that child. And so she might have, at some point, when they're moving around in her stomach, she might have been hitting on baby A more than she was hitting on baby B. She might have been subconsciously cuddling baby B, and baby B was ready. So, what we're going to teach you is to allow you to step out of the womb and not be a victim and see how you navigate the laws, the natural laws, and have them work for you, and how we can teach others to do that so that we can work in the collective and not be like what we're seeing here. We don't need people like Miss Waters and Miss Crockett. They do not speak for me, they do not define me. But we expect that because that's how we came up. Those of us that have been enslaved and had enslaved parents, that's how they came up and moved forward. But I'm telling you now, my grandfather's deceased. He's been deceased now 62 years of my life, and I'm in my 70s. Now, granted, I told Chief Mimi he was a slave, but he never instilled a slave mind thought in me. And as we go on in this process, we're going to talk about Black nobility, but not today. This will be an ongoing series. So I would like to turn this over. Do you have anything you want to say, Quentin, before I turn it over?
No, just I know that you prepped her right. Her mic is muted right now, but
Oh,
I believe that you prepped her right, and I believe that I know people may have came while you were talking to the broadcast and not understood the context of what you were explaining and why
mm-hmm,
it's so important. It is important to for us to know who we are. It is important for us to know where we come from, like really know where we come from, know when certain things, definitely when it comes to I know a lot of people may not be into politics, but if you're not doing politics, politics is doing you. So certain things are being said, and some of us are thinking it applies to them, and some of the stuff is not even being talked to you because we tend to not know who we are. We tend to not know what's being spoken and what's being said. And in order to really, really know it, in order to really catch it, in order to really, as you always tell me, Sister Azima, to overstand the information is to start from the beginning, to really start from the beginning, how the foundation of what we consider this constitutional republic, but you have to go way back before then, and that was even established. And Chief Mimi has the information, and it's very important for us to understand that information and have some context to really know what's being said. Because if you follow what's going on, SCOTUS is going to take a major case, and it probably will be the most monumental case for melanated folks in this land, whether you say Turtle Island, whether you say America, whatever you want to say, they're probably going to take the most monumental case since Dred Scott. And it's important for us to understand what's going on and how every last one of us will be affected by their ruling. Or it may not have anything to do with you. So, Chief Mimi, it's all yours.
Okay. Greetings, everyone. Halito, Inlakalakain, Matlo all those little languages that our people spoke that says hello or great son or let the light in me honor the light in you. One of the things that we do in our confederacy is we teach. the history and the stories of our people that the United States seems to want to leave out. And I try to tell everyone, well, let me introduce myself. I am, and I have it written down because I seem to forget who I am at times, but I'm Chief Mimi Olom, and I'm counsel of the governing body of the Confederacy that we have, which is the Mississippian Confederacy of American Nations. And so what we do is we come together, um, and basically our Confederacy is built so that Indians can come under the United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, Indians not taxed. Because most people don't know that the Aborigine, first of all, they don't know that there are Aborigines on this land. And I figured that out when I was speaking about it, and someone text or wrote, a couple of people said, America doesn't have any Aborigines. So, it made me realize that they really don't know. No one ever speaks about us as Aborigines, but one of the things that we have learned, and you'll learn tonight, is in Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, it states, and excluding the Indians not taxed. And so when you look at Bouvier's dictionary that's adopted to the United States Constitution, and you look up Indian, and if any one of you want to pull it up, it says the definition of an Indian is an Aborigine of America. So basically, almost everything we do is lawful. And the reason why we do that, like most natives, we have the law on our side. Because if you're not an Indian, then you can't walk under Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. You can't remove yourself from the system, because then where would you go? You would be without a country, you'll be without a land, you will be without laws. And so people didn't understand that when Trump said to them, either you're sovereign or you're not. And a lot of people don't understand when he was saying it to the Native Americans, because in other words, if you're Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, then you are sovereign, and you can't live on the reservations. Because reservations, well, that's a whole nother story. I'm getting away from kind of getting away from myself, but one thing kind of leads to another. I'm also a holistic sociologist and a cosmic ritualist. And the reason why I say I'm a cosmic ritualist is because I do rituals based on what they really are. And a lot of times when we look at the word or hear the word ritual, religion has taught us to be afraid of it. And we kind of think in terms of, oh God, this is witchcraft. Somebody's going to, get a cauldron and put hair of dog and, have a blood sacrifice. But that is not what a ritual is. And so I'm going to talk about that tonight, about what a ritual actually is. So I do want to say that I'm grateful to Quentin and Azima for having me on today, because one of my biggest concerns is that our people don't know the laws. We don't teach them to our children, and our education system certainly doesn't teach it to us. But we have to take it up on ourselves to do that study, knowing that it's the laws that's going to govern our people. It should be governing the United States, but the United States, the laws haven't really shaped the United States the way it should have, because basically someone decided that in order to subvert the law, they would implement codes or statutes and policies. And so now people are being put in jail because they're under code, statutes, and policies rather than law. And also they're missing out on certain privileges and benefits that belongs to them, because they don't know it's written in the Constitution, it's in the law. So when they go to court, they'll tell them, well, you broke this code and this statute and this so and so and so, and they go, well, they'll try to support that they didn't break that, rather than saying, yes, but the Constitution affords me this, and so therefore this should be in an Article 3 court. Because an Article 3 court is what takes you out of commerce. And most people don't know that. So I'm gonna I'm gonna
You guys in the chat, I'm gonna just bring you up to speed. She's saying a lot of it may sound like a lot of law terms, and it's important for us to understand why she's saying this. For example, just give you an example, you get pulled over for driving without a license. Without a license, depending on who you say you are and how this applies to you, you can travel without a license
Mhm.
if you know your rights. I know a lot of people think it's far fetched, and we've seen videos where it'd be like, "Oh, that's not true." She's going to explain if you know who you are and you can prove who you are, you can do certain things because what happened before the formation of these laws, statutes, and codes, there was always a law here,
Always.
and it did not get quote unquote abolished. No law gets abolished. It may be an amendment to it, but it doesn't go away.
Mhm.
And that's what she's explaining. And that's why it is very important that we know who we are.
Mhm.
So as we travel in about and about, we'll be able to get an understanding of that and just general information on how to maintain and deal in this society. Excuse me, sister.
No, no, that's perfect. Um, and you're absolutely right because in our confederacy, in order to be in this confederacy as an Indian and an Aborigine, it is a requirement to rescind your birth certificate, to rescind your driver's license. Um, let's see, there's some other documents that we don't use because we're not under their jurisdiction. That's what Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3 means. And so we can only be handled in an Article 3 court. That's federal and constitutional. So
May I? No, go ahead.
what you're saying is absolutely correct. But if you don't know that when you get pulled over, then you'll start working with code, statutes, and policies. And I had a friend who got got stopped, and she immediately told them who she was, and so on and so forth. Now this doesn't always work. The police officer didn't care, and he took her in anyway. But then once she got in and explained to them, it frightened the judge so much he walked away from the court. He just got up and left because they actually are committing an act of genocide on an Aborigine because it's called forced assimilation. And when you are forced to assimilate into the host government, it's a genocide. The United Nations even calls it genocide. It is against the law. I've kind of gone way far from what I was going to talk about, but I'm going to go back to the beginning. Um, and I apologize for doing that. The first thing people need to know, the United States and America are totally different.
Yes.
The United States is a corporation
Mm-hmm.
that we agreed when it was colonies. Yes, you may come over here and serve us on our land. And this is why you will find so many talk about the farmers in the cotton fields. They worked our cotton fields. So when you hear things and they'll interchange and say, "Oh, we can't do this in the United States, but we can't do this in America," or you Americans, no one who is a citizen of the United States is an American. That would be like me as an American visiting and deciding to move to France. Well, France is actually a corporate term, but moving to France, and all of a sudden I'm French by blood. I'm not. I'm an American living in France. So these people are they're living as citizens of the United States, and they're occupying our land. Please understand, we're under occupation. So one of the things I'm going so totally away from my script, please forgive me. One of the things in our Confederacy is that we're going to the government for is the rental of property. It is impossible for an Indian to go to live in an apartment and become an occupant in his own land. So that a rental agreement for an Aborigine is against the law, because you're telling me I'm occupying my own land. So we're talking about those kind of things with the government. We're sending all kinds of documents letting them know we have to come out of forced assimilation. And I look at it as we are in that time where Pharaoh must let us go. We'll see. But that's where we are.
And it's important what she's saying. Definitely, when you hear forced assimilation, when you see communities from other people from other places, they come to America. The wording will be when you have to take the oath to become an American citizen. You literally have to take an oath of allegiance, and what they basically are telling you, you're going to have to assimilate. We have been the melanated people, which is interesting. You brought that up. The melanated people in this country has been the only group of people as a collective that have never assimilated to the European structure in this country.
We
If
haven't
you,
willingly
yeah,
assimilated.
willingly assimilated. Everybody else, if you guys don't understand, it's literally been things like in the courts where Orientals, the Irish at one time was not considered white. So it's very important that we understand where we're going here and being able to really get a grasp of what she's speaking about.
So let me say this for both of you and the audience. What she's saying and what he's saying, I know everybody's going like, this is okay. The day you're born, I was born at a hospital, and I didn't get my birth certificate till I was 4. When my daughters were born, I did not uh, give them a name. They had baby, girl, whatever, and my husband's and their dad's last name. Um, Everything that you do is a contract. Your driver's license, your social security, going to the doctor, going to the hospital, the clinics, when you use your credit card or your debit card, um, when you're purchasing a car, when you're renting somewhere, everything is a contract. A contract is an agreement of voluntary adhesion to somebody else's laws,
Mm-hmm.
statutes, and policies.
Mm-hmm.
It
Well, they
takes,
don't have laws. That's the whole
I'm sorry,
point.
it's their statutes,
Yeah.
policies, and regulations. I mean, that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
And policemen are policy enforcers for corporations who, and you all are aware of this, back in 1993, Senate House Bill 873. No, No Child Left Behind. Remember that wonderful moment?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The purpose of that is to make sure you can only read and function to a ninth grade level. That's it. Your congressmen are supposed to represent you. You voted them in. They're supposed to go to Washington and tell the president, my constituents want this. He is supposed, that congressman or woman is supposed to work with the senators from your state to say, this is what our people want. Are you all aware that when they have the inauguration of the president, they have a presidential dinner that they do in February or March. And every governor attends that dinner, and they bring your tax ID numbers with them to say, we have these many people, and these many more are going to be born, and we're going to leverage them to get money to operate our state.
And that's what, and that's written in the Constitution.
Yes.
That's called that's called being assessed. If they bring, what they have been doing is bringing, that is one of the reasons we rescind our birth certificate and driver's license and social security number, because we're not supposed to be in that. We're not supposed to be in that. It's against the law to assess an Indian. It's against the law to tax an Indian. This is only for their people. So in other words, when you came to one of the other classes, we talked about the long arm of the forum. Do you remember that class? Were you in that class?
Okay. I do.
In the long arm of the forum, this is how they can tell what jurisdiction you're in. So if you don't have that, you're not in their jurisdiction, because those documents belong to them, including those ID numbers. And, oh, that's the word I'm looking for. We are not supposed to be enumerated at all. So the issue was in somewhere around 1880, the 1800s, they decided to rebel and assess our people anyway. But it was because so many of us, sorry, I'm so far away from what I wanted to talk about. Let me finish this and then I'm going to get back to it. But we were being assessed in 1880 against the law. This is when they started coming out with all of these acts, because there were Indians who lived in their territory. See, what we did was we allotted them a certain amount of territory for them to work for us. And in that territory, they could tax anyone, even Indians. They could not tax Indians even in their territory. That is why they had all of these acts that said any Indian within the territory of the United States has to do this, but they didn't. That's why they were so angry, because no matter how many acts they made, these Indians said, no, we don't, because the Constitution is clear. It says Indians not taxed. It doesn't say where we have to be for us not to be taxed. Whether we're on your territory or on our land, you can't tax us. But they finally got tired of it. And what they call, I'm going to say this real quick and I'm going to go back to what I originally came for. They finally got tired of it when President Jackson put out the Indian Removal Act. People think they removed them from our land. No, they did not. We agreed that they could remove us from their territory, because there were Indians that lived in that territory. And in that territory, they wanted to tax them because they weren't making money off of these Indians. So some Indians literally said, buy me out. That's how they got money from these Indians. Some people said, oh, you sold our land. You know what people I'm talking about. But no, they didn't sell their land. They said, it's like if I'm living in your house and you're like, look, you're living in my bedroom. You're not paying me rent. I don't care if my house is on your land. You should give me something. So what they said, you want this room back? Buy me out. And so they bought these Indians out and they all left. Some of them stayed and became citizens of the United States. But our law, which is the Great Law of Peace, states that any Indian that, let me bring it up. because that's where I was supposed to be going anyway.
We're going to talk about the 14th Amendment because we do know slavery did exist here in America. How does that impact us, those of us that are descendants of slaves? So, and it's clear because Trump did say you have to be a Fourth Amendment citizen if you're going to stay here. So
one of the things in the chat, and I got to keep reiterating it, is that when you listen to some of this stuff, like Sister Azima said, it may be like, what is going on? Where like I don't understand everything. Believe me when I tell you, you will see the puzzle in the pieces being put together slowly but surely, because the 14th Amendment, the Dred Scott case, and how Dred Scott was classified is very important to understand. Even for those of us of a certain age, we were taught who Crispus Attucks was. Crispus Attucks, now they're trying to change his identification on who he was. Oh, he was mixed race. No, he wasn't mixed race. So you may think, okay, what did Crispus Attucks got to do with this conversation? But it's very, very important to know who he was and how, because he was the first kill, how it shaped everything that we're talking about. And going to Dred Scott case, which was monumental to knowing who we are, and that we hear in the Constitution that 2/3 of a man and all that weird stuff they say. It's very important to understand these classifications. I know a lot of people have talked about, and I speak about it a lot, reparations. It's a reason why some people say, oh, we can't get it. They'll say that because they don't know who they are.
That's right.
If you know who you are, you'll know why legally you can fall up under the guidelines for it. So all the stuff that's going on, all the stuff with SCOTUS, which is very important, they know, they're privy to the information, but what SCOTUS does is they don't introduce information. Information has to be presented before them, then they deal with it. This is very important with SCOTUS. SCOTUS is not going to look in a book for us, but then when you present it in front of them, then they have to deal with it. So I just want everybody to be patient and understand that we're not going to get all this information in one show, two show. It's going to be very important to really, really go through step by step, piece by piece, so you have a foundation, understanding who you are and claim what's yours.
Right. I'm going to slow it down a bit.
No, you good.
Because this information I've been teaching it so long, it just pops in my head, and then so I'm going to slow it down a bit, and I'm going to go to, I think I sent this to you, the protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship. That is Trump's executive order. I think I sent that to you, that everybody is upset about. By the authority vested in me, he says, President, I'm going to read it to you. I'm going to read the sections to you, and then I'm going to explain to you. I sent it to you if you want to pull it up, or if you can find it in the on the internet. Section 1, he says, the purpose, the privilege of United States citizenship is a priceless and profound gift. The 14th Amendment states, all persons. Now let's stop there. When this is over, go look up the legal definition of a person. That's the first homework. This is all persons born. Then I want you to look up the legal definition of born. That is your second homework. Or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. That provisions rightly repudiated to the Supreme Court of the United States, shamefully decision in Dred Scott versus Sanford. which misinterpreted the Constitution as permanently excluding people of African descent from eligibility for United States citizenship solely based on their race. Now let's look at what this really should mean. Then it says, but the 14th Amendment has never been interpreted to extend citizenship universally to everyone born within the United States. This is true. The 14th Amendment has always excluded from birthright citizenship persons who were born in the United States but not subject to the United States. Please understand, all that makes a difference. So let's go to the 14th Amendment.
I think I have it. I think I have it here.
I'm sorry.
I think I have it here.
You have it? Okay.
Hold on. Hold on.
And we're going to read it. And
Oh, excuse me.
and it states,
Hold on one second.
exactly what it says. A person born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. And that's very important because you're going to see how Article 6 plays a huge part when it talks about the states, citizens of a state, because no state constitution can override the United States Constitution. And that's what you're going to find they're basically talking about. And it says again, shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor can they deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the law. And that's very important because let's see if they're in the jurisdiction. We're gonna look at who was in the jurisdiction. I wish I could have sent these documents to you, but he asked me all the documents that I read to you, I'm going to send him a link so he can put it up for you and you can read it for yourselves. Let's look at who was, what did I do with that? Let's look at who exactly they're talking about in that time. I asked to find a document that could show me exactly who was they talking about in that time. And it says, in the context of the United States Constitution, free whites, pay attention, free whites and persons serving for a term of years are two distinct categories of people used to determine representation in Congress, and for naturalized purposes, free whites refer to people who were not subject to a slavery or forced servitude, whereas persons serving for a term of years refer to indentured servants who were bound to labor for a specific period of time. And the reason it has that is because these people were in penal colonies. Now we're going to see who they were. First, we're going to look at, who were these slaves? Give me 1 second. I got ahead of myself. Let me show you this. Oh, I can't show you, but I'll read it to you. I'll read it to you. If you get a chance, you can pull up You know what? Do you want me to email you this document so you can and see if
Yeah, I could. I'll email. You can email it to me.
Okay, I'm gonna email it to you real quick so people can see it. So I think it would be great for them to see what this document says. Give me 1 second.
If you guys got any questions, for Sister Azima and Chief Mimi, up until the point where she's talking about or what she may have talked about, and Sister Azima has talked about, make sure you guys put in the chat. It's very, very important that if you have any questions, don't be shy to ask. Ask. I mean, you got the information right here. Don't
I
be.
just sent that to you.
I'm just gonna just give everybody a suggestion. Find out who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Ask your people. We know that a lot of times our oral history and tradition was passed down. Ask those questions because this stuff it may seem like a long time ago, but it was only two generations ago, 3 generations ago. So we're not far removed from a lot of these things that she's going to present, and why it's important for, like I said, for us to know.
You got it? Did you get that document?
Hold on.
It's actually a book in PDF form. I hope it went through. It's called 200 Years. Oh, no, you can't see that. I don't know if you can see that or not.
I have it.
You have it?
Yes.
Okay. If you pull it up to page 4, I'm going to read something important on there.
Hold on 1 second.
It gives a little bit of a historical background of the census.
Here we go. You want me to go to page 4?
Yeah, page 4 at the very top left.
There we go. Preface.
Mm-hmm.
There we go.
This is page 4. Hold on.
Yeah, this page 4.
No, I'm at the wrong.
Okay.
I think I'm at the wrong page. I'm on the wrong page. So go down to, but you can read that and share it with your okay, here's where I want to go.
I'm gonna share it. Once you go through it, I'm gonna share it with everybody after the broadcast. I'll put it in the community section. Okay. On YouTube, I'll put this in, I'll share it as a Google document, everyone. Yeah. And I will put it in the community section on the Let's Talk To page.
Go
so
to
everybody
page
has it.
I'm sorry.
What page?
14. I want them to look at the picture. These are the people who lived in the colonies.
Okay.
You on page 14?
Yeah, availability of popular schedules.
No, there should be a picture.
Let me see.
Is that page 14? Yeah, there should be a picture. Yeah, scroll down some more.
Okay.
Some more.
Well, I see what they did. It's page 14 in the book, but I'm all the way on a different page the way the PDF came.
Okay.
I see what happened. Here we go.
There it is. Yeah. So when you look at this picture, this is a family of servants being assessed. It's called the Great Tribulation. They are in the census, and it says, I just want to know, and you can understand why he's asked this question when we go down. I just want to know how many of you is deaf, dumb, blind, insane, and idiotic. Likewise, how many convicts there is in the family, what all your ages are, especially the old woman and the young ladies, and how many dollars the old gentleman is worth. Notice, convicts lived in these homes. That's where I want you to notice, besides the fact that he's talking to white people. So I want you to go down to page 16. And it tells you who they're assessing. And this is what you're reading about in the Constitution. If you make it big enough, you can read it at the top. It says names of the head of the families. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. And when you go to the right at the top, it says
okay.
There, you see it?
Yes.
Okay, they're I can't read the top part, but it's what they do for a living. Their occupation, because remember, they're occupants. The number of the house that they live in or their store. Some of them lived in stores. Their dwellings. We don't dwell. Please know that. These are all terms for servants, not Indians. Look them up. Free whites. You see that? Males of 16. Yes. Boy, that handwriting is bad. The other one also says free white males. The other one says free white and heads of household. Then it says all other free persons. And at the end it says slaves. You see that?
Yeah.
I'm going to find out who these slaves are. Go down to is it the next page? Okay, so let's look at what a slave is. I'm going to send you, I don't know if I sent you this document, but looking at this document right here, it will tell you what a free white person was. I'm not sure if I sent that document to you, but it states I think I read this to you, I'm not sure. In the context of the United States Constitution, free whites and persons, did we not just read about those? For a term of years are two distinct categories of people used to determine representation in Congress and for naturalization purposes. See, they're still talking about citizenship here and naturalization. Free whites refer to people who were not subject to slavery or forced servitude, whereas persons serving for a term of years refers to indentured servants who were bound to labor for a specific period of time. So we know what slavery means, right? Slavery means you are bound to service for a particular term of years. These people were paying off a debt to Britain. That's why they came here and were on these colonies. They weren't citizens yet. I'm going to show you this. Hold on. Where is it? Do I have this on here? I do. Okay, so let's look up the definition of term of years. Do you want me to send this one to you?
Yeah, you can.
Read it. In criminal law, a term of years refers to a sentence of imprisonment for a specific number of years, often used for felony convictions. It's a common method of sentencing, especially for more serious offenses where the punishment is measured in years rather than a life sentence. So, in other words, these colonies were penal colonies. I want you to understand that. Okay, let's see if I can get to this next one. I did free whites. Now let's look and see what a slave is. While it is difficult to provide precise figures on Slavic people, that should tell you something right there. Serving prison sentences in the U.S. colonies. Let's go back to that and read it again. While it is difficult to provide precise figures on Slavic people serving prison sentences in U.S. colonies due to historical date limitations, it's certain that Slavic individuals were present in the prison colonies of these prison system of these colonies. This presence was a result of diverse factors, including criminal activity. Well, if they have Slavic people, where did they commit these crimes? Certainly wasn't here. Am I making sense to anyone other than me?
I think sometimes we, unfortunately, the way that they teach history in our school system, I think they may get caught up thinking that the noble Englishman came over here and not the criminals.
Yeah, they came over here to man the criminals. So it says, this presence was a result of diverse factors, including criminal activity, indentured servants, and even enslavement, particularly in the early colonial periods. While it's challenging to definitively quantify the number, it is clear that individuals of Slavic descent were a part of the prison population across the colonial period. Thus, if we look at, I'm gonna see if I can find it. If you look up the origin of the word slave, it'll tell you it comes from the word Slavic. These were the people who were doing the term of years. They had committed a crime. They were called Slavs and then later slaves. And I tell people often, we should stop calling ourselves slaves. We should stop saying we're descendants of slaves. Because we're not Slavic. Why would we put that on ourselves? Why do we want to take on someone else's penalties? I'm just saying.
So how do we address the fact that there were some of us, because my grandfather was a slave and his sisters were. How do we address that? How do we?
Because there were Negroes that were brought here from Africa.
True.
I'm going there.
Okay. All right.
See,
I'm trying to do it fast as possible.
Don't go fast. No.
Let me see. Okay, so I wanted to. Do I have the definition of Slav, of the origin of the word slave comes from Slav? I haven't found, but you can type it in and find it. But when I do find it, I'm going to send it to Quentin so that you can see it. Where am I? If you go back to the 200 years book, there's more. I was trying to see that I show you everything in there. I have so much stuff. Sometimes I get a little confused about where stuff is. Please forgive me. If you go down to page 18, it also talks about families of free white males and free white females. See, please understand the reason why they had to see they brought colorism to this land.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have color. And you're going to see that they brought colorism to this land because they didn't want the people to have rights and privileges. If you look at the OMB, the Office of Management and Budget, it will tell you that these terms are racial, and they have no. I'm gonna have to pull it up. I don't have it on me right now, but I'm gonna pull it up. It says, doesn't. Oh, they're not anthropological,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not geographical. So, in other words, people are called by their lands. For example, let's take Latino. Where's Latino land? I'll wait. Where is white land? This is a way of removing people from their rights.
So you guys in the chat, when you hear people say that black has no legal standing, this is exactly what Chief Mimi is talking about.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
When you dealing with those courts, black and white, they're not a description. We all know it's a social construct. So this is what she's explaining.
It's socially constructed. Yep. They're socially constructed, and they have, and in fact, there's executive orders that Biden put out for the natives, and he talked about all of this, and at the bottom it says, of course, native, this term, I won't say what it is, it's neither anthropological nor geographical. But you can't say that about an Indian, because it says clearly an Indian is an aborigine of this land. That's where your power is. So when we write our documents and we send them to the government, it says everything that we are. I'll pull it up for you. Man, I'm going to be pulling up so many documents. But anyway, this is how we write our documents. I'm just going to show you. I can't stress enough that you must say who you are. I had a Moor was talking to me. I'll tell this story because I found it really interesting. I had a Moor talking to me, and he said, I was on a podcast, and a lot of them don't like me because I constantly push Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3. And the reason why a lot of them don't like me because it doesn't apply. It doesn't apply to them. And the reason it doesn't apply to them because you're not Aborigines. You can't claim, Indian. Many of them can't claim Indian. So including the other people that I was talking about. So they want to say the term is obsolete. Well, the term cannot be obsolete because the Constitution is not obsolete. Why won't this work? I had to send their leader a long letter and a petition. Y'all need to stop them from doing that. That's genocide. Don't see them doing it anymore. See, that's the power of knowing the law. I sent him a long letter. I wish I could pull up all that stuff and a petition stating they're genociding our people. They want to remove. They keep calling Indian a term. It is not. It's a people. They keep saying this, and then they said it's obsolete, and so on and so forth, blah, blah, blah. And then I sent him a document that was written by one of the presidents. Then I pulled it up, and I said, clearly, he's explaining the difference right here in this document between an Indian and a Native American. Please read it. Didn't see them anymore with that crap. But see, that's the power of knowing the law. Because the law cancels them out. It cancels policies, codes, statutes. Because, and I'm ahead of myself again, but pull up the supremacy clause. Will you pull up the supremacy clause for me, Quentin, while I'm looking for this?
You sent that to me, or you just want me to look it up?
You just type in the supremacy clause. Basically, what it's saying, and this is part of what Trump is saying also. States don't have the right to supersede the United States Constitution. I don't care what their Constitution says. Justice Scalia said, you can call it a law if you want to, but if it doesn't comport with the Constitution, it's just gibberish.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a law. Let's see if I can pull up that supremacy clause myself.
I have it. It's right there.
Okay. I'm going to pull mine
The
up.
supremacy clause found in Article 6, Clause 2 of the United States Constitution
Yep.
establishes that a federal law is the supreme law of the land, meaning that it takes precedence over conflicting state laws.
Mhm.
This principle ensures consistent application of federal law and prevents states from undermining national policies.
Mhm. Yep. In case of conflict, federal law takes precedence. Constitution.
So Chief Mimi, why is that so important?
Okay, let me put my mind there. Well, I'm going to tell you. Let me tell you why it's important to what Trump is doing. Is that okay?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. I really don't mean to get ahead of myself. I do apologize. Come on.
Better yet, let me word it to you like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm coming to you and I'm upset because he's deregulating everything. He's stripping the state of all this stuff and getting the federal government out of our affairs. And I'm so used to the federal government being in my affairs, I feel like I have no more rights. I feel like I don't have the protections that I used to have prior to his presidency. And he's writing all these executive orders, and he's, basically he's as what is being said, he's destroying democracy.
Hopefully.
Okay. So now explain in layman's terms how you would advise me to understand what is really going on.
Okay. It's not that he's taking away your rights, he's actually enforcing them. Because what has happened to you, and when you say, okay, oh gee, I wish I could bring up a case I know of. If you can go into court and say, well, the DEI, what is it called? Something equity, inclusion. What is it called?
Diversity, equity.
And inclusion gives me the right to do so and so and so and so and blah, blah, blah. And they did not hold on to that right. And so on, so on, so on. You are correct. But that lawyer will say, yes, but the Constitution says, and you can say object, and they're going to say, I'm sorry, but he's right. The Constitution says that you already have the right to do so and so and so and so, and you didn't need diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so therefore, because it's only a code, statute, and a policy, they don't have to really follow it. They're not going to use those words, but they're going to say the Constitution actually does supersede that.
I want everybody in the chat to Justice Thomas, who everyone dislikes and feel like he's a traitor to the race. Justice Thomas in his dissenting opinion on the Civil Rights Act. If you look at some of the wording that he used during his dissenting opinion, he said it should not be exclusively towards race. Basically, he was, if you want to interpret it, the correct way that it was said was it should have been exclusive towards a lineage of people and not a race of people. Meaning people from the diaspora who this was not intended to help or to hurt. And if you want to look at it that way, it was intended for a certain group of people to help and not be discriminated against. So a lot of times, even when you see something happen in courts, their dissenting opinion can actually become law based off of what they say in the wording. And I know a lot of people were upset about some of the civil rights things that happened 2 years ago, but if you really look at the wording and how he said it, and what he said was, it should not just be a blanket where everybody can get up under that cover.
I agree. And race means a horse race. Has nothing to do with the color of your skin or the history of who you are.
Right.
And they have
Everybody's in a
taken
race.
those words.
So you guys in the chat, we're gonna close for now, and trust me, I think Chief Mimi is already excited for next week already, because we had planned on doing the show last week, but actually all three of us, no, Chief Mimi and myself, we all ran across something, and but guess what? We're here now. We intend to go over this a little bit more and really get into depth and give a step-by-step account of everything that has happened, why it happened, and explain the significance of why it happened. And this is just an overview of everything that we're going to discuss, and hopefully
I'll stick to the plan.
hopefully when we get to the end, and to go back to Sister Azima's answer to my question is, when you hear these wordings about ideology like Marxism, fascism, then you'll know if it applies to you or not, or who they talking to. And like I said, SCOTUS has some very, very interesting cases that's coming up, and they're going to have monumental implications. So we need to be prepared for what's going to be coming. So with that, if anybody got any questions before we close out, you can ask us. Chief Mimi, if you have any final thoughts.
No, I will be prepared to show them next time how our law of the land supersedes the Constitution, and how old it is. Because Azima did want me to make sure that they know we already had laws before they came here, and some of them, this one in particular, it's older than they are and older than we are. So I'll have that ready next week.
And we even had that issue. I know a couple weeks ago we saw something on TV where Al Sharpton was talking. He was talking, and they're doing it, and I'm glad that they're mentioning the Constitution. I'm glad that people are starting to really try to get to understand the Constitution. At least they're trying to go back there. And a congressman had to explain to him, like, no, we are a constitutional republic, because we hear a lot of people always talk about democracy. We are not a democracy. So Chief Mimi is going to explain this. This is very, very vital that we understand words, terms. When I first met Sister Azima, you guys, she had told me before to get a Black Law Dictionary. This is important for all of us to have. It's expensive, but you have to get a Black Law Dictionary to understand these legal terms and how they are applicable for us, and how they're the template. When you go in a courtroom, a criminal justice court, civil justice court, environmental court, any courtroom, all that stuff that's going on around that you see is there for a reason. Lady Justice alone, she wears a blindfold for a reason. So we need to.
And it's not to help us.
Yeah.
Because the
We need to
Ma'at,
come
I
up
don't even see y'all. No.
Ma'at is just this. That's what Ma'at means. Just this.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't be just this when you're blind.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we don't. Justice isn't made for. Justice was actually made for races. It was made. That's what it was made for. That's why we're always going. We didn't receive justice. Well, yeah, it wasn't for you in the first place.
Not as it's used now, but in the natural law, justice was there so that when you passed transition, you had to weigh your own heart against your own deeds. Nobody else measures you. And you will be surprised how many people get in a panic. Because I've worked in those hospitals with hospice people, and they will get in a panic. I'm not dying. No, I can't. I've done. And they are right in that point. Justice is serving them because they are weighing their deeds in their mind against the things that they've done. Okay.
Yeah.
That's why justice is never blind.
Yeah.
Because you're seeing everything that you're doing right now. And if you're not living your life to the true potential, if you're here to do, then when it is time for you to come out of the womb, this is a womb, and go to the next place, you are going to be out there willy-nilly, like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And you're going to be waiting on an angel. But the angel is the angle of light. And people here are going to say, oh, we're talking witchcraft. But no, you have been duped to always remain a victim. And the reason is that Black people give off a spiritual energy that everybody wants. But nobody wants to be in your shoes. I remember that woman, Jane. I don't remember her last name, but she was always Roly-Poly Martin's, good friend. But the bottom line is that she once said in a conference, because she was at a conference, she told the white people, look around the room. Now, the question I'm going to ask you, do you want to be a Black person and go out and live your life out there? Not one, she said, please stand up. Not one white person stood up. Nobody. She says, you know what I'm asking you. So it's not like they don't know. What they do is that, like you told me, they twist and subvert the language to benefit them. Why? Because we take a laissez-faire. Oh, I don't want to be bothered. But you spend money to get to Coachella and watch Beyonce.
Right.
And her tickets were $1,500. You all manifested that money, got to where she was, saw her perform, and walked away and probably got arrested.
And what did they gain by it? They didn't gain anything that was helpful to their children at all. Nothing. And that's the one thing that I really wanted to express before I got started, and I kind of got off. But one things I really want to express to everybody here, if you are an adult, if you have children, for yourself and for the sake of your children, please learn what our Confederacy called the Trinity of Laws.
Yes.
Please, which is the universal laws, our ancestral laws, the great law of peace, and the United States Constitution, because that is what you're being governed by right now. All three of those. That is the Trinity of life for us. That's how we're going to win.
Right. And we have to do it collectively.
Collectively. Yeah.
Collectively. And the more we know, the less fearful you are. You are fearful because you have lack of knowledge and the ability to implement that knowledge.
Yeah. What I call law illiterate. That's exactly what we are.
We are.
Law and literate, and we don't.
And that's one of the things they teach you in learning law and being subjected to law is that ignorance is not an excuse
Not an excuse.
because it's
You know,
here.
I'm right, because I asked the universe, I asked her everything. I said, how is it, when you go to court, if you don't know a law, they're supposed to have some leniency. And she said, let me give it to you this way. There are laws in the universe. Let's say I set a hole right here in the universe. If you don't know it's there, you're going to fall in it. Ignorance of it is your fault because you're supposed to assess every part of your surrounding. So we can't say to the universe, well, I didn't know that the sun, if I stood out into it too long, that my skin would burn. The sun is there for a purpose, and it has a contract with the universe to be there for that purpose. But if you don't obey the law on why the sun is there, you could get hurt. You have to know the laws. You have to abide by them because they're there to protect you from harm and to protect you from harming others.
Mm-hmm.
With that, you guys, we're gonna close out. And no, you good, you good. We're gonna close out, and I look forward, and I hope everybody look forward to next week, and we continue to have this discussion, and not be more prepared, but be able. We'll be here. Hopefully, we'll be here, and you know, I want you guys in the chat. Hopefully, you guys have some questions because this is very important. It's no time limit. She's gonna take her time and just know that there's no dumb question. It's no such thing as, oh, you sound crazy asking the question. If you need to know something, ask the question. So with that, take care, and we can see you guys next time.